we are live. Another show, FTMIG live on the Midas Letter Network. We're here with a new face today. Matt Dyke, welcome to the show. Appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome, Matt.
Because we were, a lot of our stuff has always been surrounded around cannabis and mining, and contrary to popular belief, there's other ways to invest.
Yep.
And an area that we're going to start off with today, and we've got a bunch of different people coming on, by the way, just to go into that really quickly. We have the CEO of Indiva that is going to be making a stop in here. We have the CEO of Providence Gold, a really interesting gold company. They are a client of FTMIG.com. They are just starting up their story, so we got that coming for you as well. And we have the CEO of Empower Clinics coming on as well. So quite a few things, but to the reason you're here, there's a lot of different areas that we've been talking about in the last little while, but one area we haven't been has been real estate. And you've been in this space for quite some time, and we're going to start going over a couple of things about in the GTA, across Canada. What is the state of people buying homes, condos, and everything in between?
That's right. Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it. Yeah, I can let you know a little bit about myself. I've been in the business here as a mortgage agent for the last 3 years. I've been involved in the real estate industry in the Durham region and across the GTA for about the last 10 years. But yeah, it's an interesting space to be in. It's an interesting time to be in it. Coming into the mortgage world is just when all the rules got flipped upside down, and so it's all normal for me. So from that perspective.
Yeah, and I know I'm right in that generation. Everyone keeps talking about the millennials and how they're not going to be able to afford homes. We've had housing crisis, we've had housing bubbles, we've had all these different aspects. Where are we right now? For those who are looking to invest or buy, what's the real estate outlook in Canada looking like right now?
It's a little bit up and down across the board. If you look from the major cities, obviously Toronto and Vancouver were the hotbeds that everybody was worried about when the government got involved in changing those rules for mortgages. But Montreal, which was kind of quiet over the last couple of years when everybody else was on fire, they are now kind of leading the way.
Really?
Ottawa's doing fairly well. Toronto and Vancouver have softened up. I think we hit the soft bottom, and it's starting to come back up. Prairies, and you get to the East Coast, it varies depending on cities. So it's there's Calgary is really slow. Their market is at a 10-year slow down, I think.
Yeah, I saw that earlier. It's the slowest market last month in a decade in Calgary. They just keep getting one thing after the other right now.
Now you can imagine from the oil sands when that was going, that was booming back in those days, and prices are at great lows for people to buy right now there, but people just can't, so the sales have just dried up.
Mm-hmm. See, and that's important because so many people, like I said earlier, we talk about investing in stocks, we talk about investing, whether it be options, mutual funds, doesn't matter. The biggest investment most of us have is our home.
Absolutely.
And it's interesting to see what's going up. You've got a home coming up soon. Maybe
well,
we'll find out now if it's going to keep going up or not.
It's an investment property, yeah.
Yeah. So if you were buying a home, where would you buy one right now? Where is it hot? Where do you think you're going to see the largest increase for the next little while?
Well, I mean, the trend, if anybody from the GTA that's watching, obviously it's always kind of been the go north or go east philosophy, right? And so me being out in Durham region, anywhere from Pickering all the way out to Bowmanville and Newcastle, you can really get into an affordable property out there. So you're still along the lines of commuting into the city, that type of things. I've dealt with a lot of first-time buyers, young couples coming in, and they've gone as far as Quinte, as going out to Belleville to buy a property for $280,000, $290,000, get half an acre, get a 25-year-old bungalow, and driving into Durham region to work. So I mean, but that's the alternative versus living in Durham and driving to Mississauga or Oakville or Hamilton or
I feel like Durham needs an airport.
Well, there's a rumor that we're getting one for the last 30 years.
So farmers don't want to move. No. But no, the airport would really help out because that would bring more jobs. And that's the most attracting thing about the West End is the airport, jobs, corporations set up around the airport, and you see your values up there around the airport are higher.
Just need a Hyperloop. We just need a Hyperloop. We need to get Elon Musk out of the trouble that he's in right now. And just, come to Toronto, bore a hole all the way from Muskoka down to here, and then everyone can have their amazing homes out there for a fraction of the price. Even though that's pretty expensive, actually. Muskoka's been ripping it lately.
Yeah, it is.
A lot of cannabis money be going out there?
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it whatsoever.
Let's talk about interest rates, because we're going up. Things have been going up for the last year or so. So how do you see that affecting the markets here?
Should I pull up my NDI and I'll show you right away?
Yeah.
This is what interest rates have been doing to the market. If we can pop it up here, as I think you're saying in Canada. Oh, there we go. Red. Everything is red. If you looked at the actual indices, I don't know which one to go here. We're also just going to pop up here. I don't know what's going to pop on the screen. But if you go to the actual indices, you're looking at the Dow and everything, it's getting hammered. Is that because we're expecting interest rates coming up soon?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of tension going on with the free trade agreement, right? That was just finally negotiated, which still has time to go through and get passed and implemented, but it looks like it's a done deal. And as soon as that announcement came out from Canada, the U.S., and Mexico, all of a sudden the forecast went from having 2 rate increases in 2019 to 3, possibly 4. Yeah. And then, of course, the jobs report came out in the States, and they're at a record low for unemployment, I think, below 4%. So that automatically is going to expedite that rate hike by the Bank of Canada. Yeah. We're probably expecting to see one in about 2 weeks. Yeah. So that'll be the first one, or probably the last one for this year, I would expect. Yeah. Yeah.
And I could imagine that, knowing that, obviously, then all these things follow suit. We were having a conversation earlier about interest rates, and just the fact that this year, 2018, was supposed to be 4% global growth, which is like the highest that we've had in the last 10 years since before the financial crisis.
What, in Canada or the U.S.?
In the world. The world is supposed to, on average, be 4%. And when that starts happening, you need to be able to start, one, it's showing that you're in a good state, and you just said the jobs rates or the unemployment rate is one of the lowest we've had in a long time. When you start seeing that, you see this economy, you think to yourself, if you're, the government, I'm trying to think, I keep thinking of the guy in England, I keep thinking of Carney. Is it Polos in Canada right now? Yeah. If you're looking at him and you're seeing that your economy's doing all right, the job rates are down, and you know that inflation's coming. Because when you start having increases in output and productivity, you start getting this sense where you have to curb inflation. And one of the biggest ways you do that is by raising interest rates, because that's fighting inflation almost 2 years down the road. You're doing it proactively. Right. And if we think we're going to keep growing, and interest rates are still going to keep going up, this is going to keep affecting us like this, but more specifically, for our housing markets, it's going to get expensive.
Yeah, it's that, and it's also there's a couple other factors at play. There's in terms of supply. So housing starts are down. I think it's down 20-some odd % since June. We're on pace for about 188,000 new builds in Canada for this year. And that will be the lowest in years. So normally 200,000 is probably where you want to get to. I just saw an interesting stat that I didn't even know, that Canada has increased their population by over 500,000 this year. So if you take that into account, where do new people to Canada come? Yeah. They come into Toronto, they come into Vancouver, and we already know that those markets are struggling as it is in terms of affordability. Families are spending about 53 or 54% of their household income on their mortgage.
That's insane. So I'm looking for a place right now, right in the east end of Toronto. $2,200 for a 2-bedroom. I think it's like 650 square feet. $2,200. I'm pretty sure your mortgage out in I always get this wrong. Bowmanville. Pickering. Yeah. One of the east. I'm so bad without east. I'm a true GTA guy.
You're a West End guy.
I'm a West End guy. But it's crazy. $2,200. That's a significant amount of money, and it's not anything special. It really isn't. When you're looking for an actual home, how do people afford it?
Matt, how do you factor in the green belt? Because that's really tied up our hands with building too, right? That has to play a role. How do you feel about that?
It's you get a little bit torn if you get into the weeds a bit, but it's all the municipalities are looking at areas where to loosen up the regulations so they can open up some land. One example of where they're trying to do that a little bit, I believe they cut into some of the green belt that runs along the northern part of Durham, which is that new development, Seaton, which is been in the works for a while, right? North Pickering.
North Pickering.
And that's supposed to be a high-end type of development, create a ton of jobs, and all planned out. And they dug into a little bit of that area, which is good. But I did hear, as an example, so local stuff out in Clarington, when you get all the way into Curtis and Boneville, Newcastle, there's something coming up for that council very soon about actually putting more restrictions on greenbelt areas out there.
Yeah. Really?
So I mean, that's not where we're having the big issues. The big issues are more here in Toronto.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about prices. I mean, how much would a detached cost us in Toronto?
Detached in Toronto. Well, I think the average last month's report came out just over $1 million. But
a cool mill.
Yeah, a cool mill
for a house.
And that's down. That's down from way back, 2 summers ago. But it's still, prices are still in the top range that they've been in our history. So yeah, it's about $796,000 is the average home price in Toronto, but $1 million for a detached. Now, if you want to compare that, the average price is just under $600,000 in Durham region. Half an hour, 40 minutes east, and you can get a detached for $648,000.
Yeah, it's amazing the difference.
It is.
The smallest, I shouldn't say the smallest amount, there is distance obviously there, but it's incredible where you look at one house, $1 million. Yeah, you take that $1 million and drive half hour, 45 minutes away, and you're getting, is it arguable to say double?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, you're getting the white picket fence, and you're getting the 3, 4, 5 bedroom house sometimes. You can get your 2,000, 2,500 square feet, and you can stay under 600,000. Oshawa's average is, just over 500,000, and there's over 600 listings right now there.
So for somebody who's looking to invest in real estate, is it a time to still buy a home and go into rent? Because rentals can keep going up as well. Do you find that could still be a very fortuitous place to park your money? Yeah,
for sure. Rentals are a great opportunity. The only thing that has changed is with the initial changes to the mortgage rules back in 2017, and then again, 16, and then this year, that has made it harder, and so rental underwriting conditions by the lenders and through the government have really tightened that up. So what I mean by that is, before you could be an investor and you might own 10 or 15 doors. So as long as you count a door, right? So you could have a fourplex, that's 4 doors, right? Yeah. So now you might cap out with one lender at 4 doors, and you have to go find another one who will allow you to add, more. So once you get your first or second, you want to keep going.
Yeah, because I know Winfred actually has 3 rental properties. He's 31. He's been putting a lot of time into that, and that's actually brought him a lot of wealth, was going into rental property.
Absolutely.
Where a lot of other people, they put their money elsewhere. They put it in their, like I said earlier, you either go into stocks, you go into whatever, you put it into your losing account that they somehow are allowed to call a savings account. It's really interesting because not many people, especially millennials, are looking at houses and saying, I want to buy a house because it's an investment. They look at it as, this is a burden I'll never be able to afford.
Well, one of the big problems, and I'm not sure if it kind of hinges on the borderline of the millennial age group, and they're, I think the average age we were talking about was they're 29 right now, and first-time buyers' average age is 32. Yeah. So that wave's coming. They are now getting they're getting their promotions, that type of thing. There might still be help from family, from mom and dad, in terms of gifted funds, that type of thing, but they are entering the market. They've been sitting on the sidelines, and they're entering the market. Now, when it applies to rentals, the rentals tend to still be a lot of the ideas from the slightly older generation. That's kind of who's playing in that space right now.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it's, it's just one of those things, right? You've got to find a way to make money in this market. And as interest rates are going up, what do you suppose? Do you find that prices might start getting pinched because people can't afford it anymore?
Well, I mean, if interest rates go up, it hits the amount you can borrow.
Absolutely.
So that's going to happen.
And that's
he's pointed out the supply issue, so it's right.
And that's what I'm curious about. If these extra rates that are coming out in October 24th, you said most likely will be the next one. But then the 3 rates that we're expecting next year, is that going to affect negatively, or do you think the supply and demand, like Karl was saying, offset it?
I mean, I think it will. There'll still be a segment that will probably be pushing through and doing well, but honestly, the B20 rules that came into effect on January 1st, so the technical term of that, OFSI, which regulates the mortgage industry, everybody knows the stress test, the 2%, right? Yeah. So that applies to anybody who's getting a mortgage through a major bank, non-major bank, like a credit union, alternative lenders, A or B lending. So, nobody would blink at a contract rate of 3 or 4% interest. Let's say we're in the mid 4s next year. That'd be easy to swallow for almost anybody. But when you have to qualify now, let's say 4.5, you're qualifying at 6.5%.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, salaries and income just haven't risen that fast.
No.
So you have to look to see where things are going. It just kind of makes me think back to 2 summers ago when the number one thing before the rules came in, it was the baby boomers who were refinancing their houses left, right, and center for 2 reasons. One, they were adding equity to their house because they were finishing basements, doing landscaping, that type of thing. But the basements really were for their kids who were coming back to live with them because they knew that they wouldn't be able to afford it in the future.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's kind of a trend that's been going on for a while, but that's a reality of the market, right? So people want to get out. That's millennials' number one wish: get out of mom and dad's basement and get their own house.
No kidding. And the rate this is going, it's getting harder and harder to get out there. When you're you pay anywhere from I saw a stat. I'm trying to think what it was. It was the average condo or average 1-bedroom apartment in Toronto. Something like $2,500 a month. That's a significant amount of money.
It is. But you go out to the suburbs and you pay less, but you got to commute. So what's your time worth?
Yeah.
Right. There's a cost associated with that. So you got to factor all those things in. But I mean, housing it's increasing.
Yeah.
And rates are going up, and the U.S. is booming right now at a pace that Canada is not. Yeah. So their rates are going up. There's definitely some issues coming up here.
Yeah, and people have to be aware of it as well because it is a changing landscape.
The thing is, with Toronto, like you already mentioned, when people come here, whether it's immigration, immigration, where do you want to live? A lot of people, no disrespect to Calgary, but most people want to come to Toronto, Vancouver, where else do they want to go?
No, exactly.
So you almost look at Toronto, it's like an island.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like people want to live on an island.
If we can get my ND up, I just want to switch over here really quickly. Matt Dyke, we can be looking into your services and what you're doing. This is, I believe, your website.
Yeah.
Right here. Yeah. Different aspects of what to look into because this is an important area for so many different people. It's an important area to learn about. And for people looking, they can always reach out to you and get on a call or email, whatever way you'd like, and start looking into this a little bit more.
You can find me, whether it's mattdykemortgages.com or on my Facebook page, or just Google me and you'll find me. But it is important because there are products out there. As much as it's difficult, we're talking about the new rules. There are some loopholes.
Yeah.
People should take advantage of them.
Matt can get it done.
Yeah.
And do you want to plug your better half?
Sure, yeah, my wife is a prominent real estate agent out of Oshawa, Royal LePage Frank. Her name's Roxanne Meek. And she also works with a custom builder out in Whitby. So, she's been tearing up the market this year. And it's...
What builder does she work with?
DeNoble Homes.
Okay.
DeNoble Homes out of Whitby, they're a semi-custom builder. And they do. They typically just build in Whitby, and they're well sought out areas, right? So they.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you know off the top what the average price of a detached home in Vancouver is?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Expensive.
Is it more or less than Toronto?
It was always more. Yeah. So, and the funny thing is, when you start comparing the types of detaches in Vancouver versus Toronto, when you looked at value, you'd be surprised about what you're looking at for that dollar value in Vancouver. Yeah. It typically wasn't, something that would, floor us if we looked at it.
No, absolutely.
But it's just the value was there, and it's still there. So it's an interesting market out there for sure. But I was going to say there. For people who are out there looking and they're worried about the stress test, things like that, one thing that people forget is that that's a federal guideline. And so there are provincially regulated financial institutions like our credit unions. And some of the non-bank lenders have now gone out and sourced provincial funds that they can now step aside and just qualify you at the contract rate. Yeah. So, you're gonna pay in the low to mid fours, but you're not qualifying with an extra 2% on top. And so that might make the difference between you getting that property, whether it's an investment or whether it's for your family.
Well, hey, I appreciate your time coming out here and going over these different elements, because these are things that a lot of our viewers, who doesn't either own a house or looking to buy a house. So I appreciate it. We'll be sure to get you back on the show as well.
I wanted to ask one more thing. So in regards to investing, if I wanted to invest into mortgages, right, that's possible?
Absolutely. A big part of what's going on since all these new rules is a lot of private lending, and you can also get into a MIG, so that's a mortgage investment company.
An Irish one?
Potentially, yes, and you can definitely get into those, and there's different ways, and I don't know all the exact details. The brokerage that I'm affiliated with actually created a MIC last year, and you could go into your portfolio of your RSPs, whatever you might have, and actually then buy into the company. So you're funding mortgages. It's very different than it's not the syndicate mortgage pool. It's not that. It's a much safer investment vehicle, and you're looking for stable properties to invest in, whether it's long or short term. But they're great vehicles. And private lending, short-term private lending is very lucrative if you know how to do it.
Perfect.
There is a cannabis REIT out there too, which we'll talk about on a later segment.
Perfect.
But you can get into that.
Well, hey, let's switch gears over to cannabis. I want to thank you again for coming down to the studio and putting up with a fire alarm earlier when we were here, here before.
Yes. But that's in the building. It's fire.
It's fire.
Well, we're going to switch over to Neil Marotta. He is the CEO of Indiva. He stopped by and we got to speak with him about his company. We'll go over there right now. And we're here today with Neil Marotta, CEO of Indiva. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And we wanted to come over here because I know that we're ramping up. October 17th is very, very soon. And there's a lot of different developments that have been happening recently. Is there anything that you'd like to share about Indiva and what you guys have been doing over this last little while?
Sure. Yeah, thanks for having me. Look, we're a licensed producer. We're in London, Ontario. We just got our sales license in August, so we'll be onboarding patients here shortly. Right now, our market cap is around 65 million. We have 25 million of cash, so we're expanding to 40,000 square feet, and that's fully funded. We'll have an extraction facility as well as our grow.
Yep.
The recent announcement on retail actually is really encouraging for us, in that it's going to allow licensed producers to have a store at their production site. And we're one of the few, I think, licensed producers in Ontario that actually have a relatively urban location. So we're in London, Ontario. We're about 1 minute off of the 401, less than a kilometer away from the exit of the 401. Actually. Yeah, there's a wholesale club across the street. Yeah. There's 9 hotels with over 1,000 rooms within a half-mile walk. So also our master grower has deep roots in London within the compassion community, medical cannabis. He's been licensed grower since 2001 under the old system. So we think that combination of that local mind share and being the only licensed producer operating in London right now, as well as our location, we think we'll have just an absolutely terrific store for Londoners and other Ontarians or even visitors that, right off the 401, you should be able to come on in.
Yeah, and you got Funshaw down there as well. A lot of different universities. It's a really good area for that, and it's interesting because if any of our viewers don't know what you were talking about, recently Ontario came out forward and said that you can now have for every, I believe it's every LP facility, you can have a retail store as well, and that's big. So I don't think they were going to allow that from the very beginning.
Yeah, it was always uncertain. It was something that we pushed for because we knew we had a great location. Also, being one of the smaller players, we have 1 location, not 10. Yeah. We wanted to make sure, and we thought it made all the sense in the world. We have the security in place. We're the ones that are manufacturing, growing the product. So it made all the sense in the world to be able to sell out of our facility, similar to a microbrew would be able to do in the province.
Exactly.
Yes, we're very pleased that we'll have the right to do this now.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting actually, and it's exactly what you said, like a Mill Street brewery you see in downtown Toronto, where and there's a bunch of them, but you've got a brewery there, but you also have a restaurant, or you can buy beer there. It'll be really interesting to see that right from the LP, right where you're growing it, you'll be able to set up shop there as well. So I'm not too sure if the other provinces are following suit in that way. I can't recall off memory, but I'm glad to see it happen. Yeah,
I think the other provinces will, for the most part, allow retail stores. There'll be some provinces like Quebec that will be full government monopoly. In all cases, we'd like to sell product coast to coast, not just out of our one store in London. We think, local production seems to have some impact, whether it's on a microbrew or a vineyard, or in this case with cannabis. So we're happy to benefit from that. But our ambitions obviously go far beyond just one facility in London. We think we will be part of this global expansion. We've made a couple of small investments into two really interesting brands of the United States, one called Bang and one called Ruby, which makes cannabis sugar. In both cases, we'll have the right, in Bang's case, we'll actually have a joint venture in Canada, 50-50, where we have the right to manufacture and distribute their award-winning edibles and vape pens, oral and other derivative products in Canada. And with Deep Cell, Seattle-based company, relatively new, but they have this terrific cannabis sugar, cannabis salt. They found a way and patented something called crystal fusion, where you can combine the cannabinoids with crystalline structures like sugar, salt, or xylitol. This is an all-natural product where the ingredients literally would be THC and sugar. And so this is something that they call flexible edibles. So you can add sugar to your coffee or your tea. You can put salt on your fries or veggies. And so we're very excited to have the exclusive license to manufacture and distribute those products in Canada. So it's not just dry flower, it's not just oil, but all these wonderful products that we'll bring. And we see a real big opportunity there. There's millions, the data shows, millions of Canadians that have tried cannabis in the last year, but very, very small amounts. So you've got this very long tail of people that consume less than 1 gram a year, let's say. And our thesis is that part of that's legality, part of it's access, but also that people maybe don't want to smoke. And so to be able to offer cannabis sugar, cannabis salt, edibles, vape pens, and other means of consuming cannabis, we think there's a huge growth in that area, an opportunity to differentiate, and also healthy margins too.
Well, you brought up an interesting point there, and I think you're right. I think there's, no matter what, cannabis is going to be legal October 17th. We're like just a little ways away. But the stigma behind smoking, I think, will always be there in some sort of way. If you want to, sure, that's going to be you. But I know a lot of people over the last year or two that do not smoke cannabis, but are very open to consuming foods and consuming drinks. Like, if I can find a different way of consuming where I don't have to actually smoke it, I'd be very, very curious. And we all know about the gray market. We have a lot of dispensaries that are out there. Those are all turning into retail stores, and we're really cracking down on that. But they're out there. And speaking to people that I've either worked with or friends or just in general, many of them would opt to having, like a low THC edible where it's just enjoyable, you get to relax, opposed to smoking a joint. So having these different aspects, it could be really, really fortuitous when a year from now, whatever it is, we loosen up the regulations. I think they will.
Yeah, and with, for instance, the Ruby sugar, it doesn't even have to have THC. So we'll make a pure CBD Ruby sugar, a 1-to-1, and a pure THC, depending on what your appetites are. And so, we're very excited to offer these products. The other way we sort of look at that too is that very unlikely that you'll have establishments where you can smoke or vape, let's say indoors or on a patio, particularly in Ontario, if not coast to coast. But being able to have, let's say, a licensed establishment where you could, put sugar in your coffee, or, who knows where things will progress, 1 to 5 years down the line. We may have licensed establishments that might be allowed to cook with infused products or serve infused products. Having pure cannabis sugar and salt, great way to prepare those foods without having to force you to, let's say, eat something you don't want to eat. Not everyone wants to eat a cannabis chocolate, let's say, on a regular basis. Once in a while is fine, but adding a little bit of salt to your soup or veggies, etc., this is a much easier ask, a much easier sell, I think.
Well, especially the sugar part. I'm intrigued. I haven't heard it in sugar before, and I'm intrigued because a lot of people enjoy tea. And and tea to relax or to go to sleep or whatever it be. It'll be really interesting when we start getting into edibles and we start allowing certain things. I think personally that coffees and teas will be a really huge segment for people who want to relax. Have a nice coffee with maybe a little bit of CBD or THC in it to allow you to get onto a plane and relax, or a train, whatever it be. So having that and already being prepared for that, that's interesting. I never knew that about Indiva, actually.
Yeah, it's exciting for us. I mean, these flexible edibles, it prevents us from saying, here's how you ought to consume your cannabis.
Yeah.
We've seen other products, let's say in the illicit market, that are already pre-infused, whether that's tea or coffee cups and things like this, and that's great. I think I could absolutely see someone using infused coffee with infused sugar and putting them together, let's say to have an extra dose of CBD for that analgesic effect.
Yeah, and it's like you said though, it's up to them at that point.
Absolutely.
They can dose properly, and then they don't have to have this brand of coffee or this brand of tea or this. They can go with whatever they want, find your whatever coffee that you enjoy, and then be able to get your medicine or your recreation, whichever one it is, into that beverage.
We've always maintained it's not up to us to decide whether you're a customer or a patient. You're a client, and it'll be the same high quality products that are compliant with all the regulations in Canada.
Well, it's very interesting. I appreciate you taking the time to come down here and speak about your company a little bit more. Just so that we'll give you a quick plug for your ticker and the exchange that you're on.
Yeah, we currently trade on the TSX Venture, and our ticker is NDVA, Indiva.
There we go. So if you need to look more, you can always find a bunch of things online as well. Look forward to October 17th and seeing what they do allow and how this progresses. I look forward to seeing the progression of your company along that way as well. So I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Absolutely. And we're back. That was interesting when I had that talk, because I loved the aspect of the infused sugar. Because like we were talking about in there, you can take that with anything. There's a lot of these different places are having their cannabis infused tea or coffee or whatever it is.
It's going to be a huge aspect of the space.
And here you don't have to pick a coffee. You don't have to pick a tea. You just get your own sugar. You can do it with whatever you like.
Coffee, tea, or me?
Coffee, tea, or me?
Do you know that?
I don't. Is that
it must be a Scarborough thing.
It must be a Scarborough thing. Yeah. We already established I'm very much a Westerner.
You are.
On the west of the central
Western
Canada.
GTA.
Yeah. But no, I like that because a lot of people, I think this is going to be a massive market, is going to have CBD coffee and things like that where you're enjoying, you're relaxing, and it's helping you go to sleep. It's helping you do whatever it be. That's an important part, and we'll hear more about that actually later on in the show with Empower Clinics. That was a really interesting interview as well, speaking exactly on that point of how these things are going to be areas that you can come over these pain and medications, all these other aspects.
Yeah.
Someone behind you laughing at you again.
Yeah.
You are not going to. I'm going to play you in poker, and I'm going to make sure we're playing for like $200 because you do not have a poker face whatsoever.
I think he shows up just to get me going.
Yeah. 100%.
But what's going on in the market? It's completely red, and we were talking about Matt earlier about interest rates going up. I think that's a huge aspect.
On the U.S. side, I think the markets are pricing in.
The U.S. can hurt any market.
Yeah, because you just had the NAFTA sorted out.
I'm going to check them what it is right now. The markets, they're just absolutely red right now. The NASDAQ is down 1.78%. The S&P 500 down 1.39%. Down 1.42%. And this is like 3 days in a row. There's a mini correction going on right now.
Oh, a little bit. Right into legalization, right? Like, I mean, why wouldn't you push it down a little bit to get in cheaper?
Well, this is the whole market. So like, this is the entire American market, the S&P 500 and everything like those. This is very, very, very broad. Interest rates, like, they're that powerful. People don't understand. We're so used to near zero interest rates and all this government stimulus. It's artificial. You can't keep doing that. When that stimulus tap goes off, a lot of people.
It's like pulling people off heroin.
Honestly, maybe not as similar, but
well, if you're not responsible, it kind of is.
But seriously, it's going to be a rude awakening. A lot of people are going to be hurt by this because they're not paying attention. They're not preparing themselves. Because having interest rates down this, look at our parents. They went through 18-20% interest rates for the homes.
Oh yeah.
We think 5 right now is just, I can't do this.
Well, yeah.
What if it's going to go back up to a more a higher rate?
It's going to go back.
I'm playing you in poker.
I think we're going to have to get a camera that spins around so I can show everybody what's happening. Anyway, it's good live TV.
But there's also been a lot of interesting things come up. I know you spend a lot of time looking at news. 5 in the morning, every single morning, aggregating our articles for FTMIG.com. Go there if you're ever looking for news releases. They're almost every single one in cannabis and mining you'll find there.
Me and Todd are always.
They're easier to read, man. 100%.
Absolutely.
100. A lot of people tell me that.
Throw a little chart in there, some oranges.
Yeah, but it's just the way that it looks, man.
But what were some big articles that came out?
Well, I mean, Aurora came up with trying to get onto the New York Stock Exchange.
It's massive.
I mean, that's huge. Well, look at what happened with Canopy. They came out with that whole thing, and when they did, they went up from $27 to almost hit 40.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You know, like it's a huge catalyst for them, and you get much more people flowing money through. And obviously,
what about T-God? They're doing the same thing, right?
Well, they're trying to go to what, the NASDAQ?
I think they're trying to go to the NASDAQ.
It's pretty big for them because they have a lot of free
Chrono went that way.
Well, I mean, Chrono did that, but Chrono went up the same kind of way.
It's insane. And it's funny because you hear two different sides of the story. I always laugh because Alan Brockstein. I'll read his stuff from time to time. The guy's he's been here for many different years, but he always laughs like you're going to another exchange. Does that make you 50% more valuable?
Yeah.
Like you have higher liquidity. You'll have more eyes on you. So there is a big. You can't just let that go. Like that's actually a pretty big thing.
Yeah, but the company doesn't
50%,
change.
50%? You're going to add $500 million plus to your company because you went on a different exchange?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know, but that's what's happening. So look at Aurora. I'm surprised to see Aurora. Just a month ago, we were wondering what's happening to Aurora. They're tanking because there's all this dilution. Well, look at now. What were they at? $13 or something like that. They're right back to where, closer to where their highs were. They're at $12.94, so they've been hit a little bit over the last while, but $12.94 after diluting your company by almost like 100% over the last little while, that's actually really good.
Yeah, not bad at all. And
it's their market cap. What's their market cap?
It's like 15 billion. I don't have it up here. It's got to be 14 or 15 billion by now.
No. This guy just...
Pull it up, boys.
Pull it up.
Pull it up.
I'm just stuck in my...
You're not going to pull it up?
I can.
We'll put it on the big screen and you can point at it, all right?
But just in general.
I'll pull it up.
You go right ahead. Oh, they just put it up. I've actually got Whale up there. Funny enough, of all the different companies, they came down. They had their special warrants go live a few days ago.
That was huge.
There was some confusion there, actually.
Yeah.
A lot of people thought that it was a 4-month hold.
You set them straight.
But it's not. They're free trading now, and that's why you saw... if you go into
Aurora, 12.5 billion.
So let's see, I was close. Yeah. If you go into the here,
Canopy's 14.5 billion.
I'll lie and say that's what I was thought.
Don't disrespect Sir Bruce like that. Okay?
But if you look at this, people knew that was coming, and it got to a pretty good. Oh, you don't see my mouse up there. It got above $2, which is the big thing. People were really thinking that was it 211 or 213. Was the big point. We talked about it several weeks ago, but it broke through it and it got above everything. But then a lot of shares came out, and if you're in that private placement and those shares became free trading, a lot of people just sold their shares, and now they've got risk-free warrants. Carl's favorite, where they can
I don't know about that. I'd probably be holding on to my Whalen.
Yeah, but you know what? If you wanted to, where they were at $1.60 and it was up at $2, you can make 40 cents. Per share that you have, but then you have your warrant at $1.75.
Yeah.
You have your warrant at $1.75 that now you just ride for free.
Yeah, but dude, this company has a lot of assets in it.
I know.
And what's it? The market cap. Let's check it out.
It's abysmal. It's actually like.
I agree with that move, but I don't know if I'd be doing it here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Not advice. I'm just saying.
There's a pretty good chance it's exactly what happened, especially if you're unloading those shares and you know you're about to, so you short them on the way down as well.
They have so much upwards movement that they can have because of the
250 million market cap. Sorry.
It's what?
250 million market cap.
So let's compare here for a second.
Well, I'm not comparing anything because I'm not allowed to.
Well, if you just look at that 250 million market cap though.
I'm just talking about
they've got their export license, wait on their import license. They're in multiple countries. They have a massive facility coming up. They're going to have 36,000.
Switzerland.
That just happened today, actually.
Happened today.
I think that was the very first, if I'm not mistaken.
To Switzerland, for sure.
To Switzerland, THC being exported there. Yep. To be at 250 million market cap.
Well, Yeah, so this morning I was talking with Suzanne, and she had mentioned there's a pretty significant vote in Europe coming up in December that would have to do with medical cannabis. So that's pretty significant.
Yeah, wasn't that, they reshuffled it. They were gonna, I mean, I remember Afria was in there, a bunch of other people were in line to have facilities built there, get licenses, and then they stopped the whole process because it happened too quickly or something like that. They wanted to give a fair playing ground for all the different players that are out there. And I think that's what you're talking about.
Right.
Now they're gonna.
So if I owned this company, I was in that PP. If I thought that this market was going to collapse, then maybe I would make that move. But if I see cannabis going higher, right, and you look at past charts, I wouldn't be selling my free trading shares right now. Personally.
Some people just want quick money. You can't blame them.
I didn't know about that whole thing because I didn't.
Yeah. Because you held on anyway because you thought they were.
Didn't know it was happening.
This is what I love about my Mountain Valley private situation. So I don't have to watch it.
You don't have to worry about it.
No, they just build the company, and
it actually is nice finding things earlier on where you can park money there, and you don't have to be watching every day. I like having a part of my portfolio. I can still do that. Like I like trading from time to time, especially if there's certain catalysts coming up, whatever. But when I was in December, and I had like 27 different stocks, and everything was going, and it is so hard.
I had over 100.
Yeah, I know, you're crazy.
I had almost every company probably.
You probably have more private placements than I had.
Yeah, went shopping.
You know, you're throwing a dart. He took the entire thing and just hocked a whole bucket of darts to see what would stick.
Oh yeah.
It did well for you at first.
Well, yeah.
And then everything started crashing, and you couldn't sell fast enough for some things.
Some I didn't know were crashing. I was just like, oh man, there's too many.
So you got to find your own personal.
So Bay Street's looking for U.S. cannabis deals right now. That's a big thing.
Very much so.
I was talking to someone who was here in the offices this morning.
Yeah.
And he was giving me the little skinny, which is the second time I've heard that, because when we were speaking with our broker friend, one of our broker friends, that's what he said. Yeah. And that was like 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah, because just look at the valuations. I mean, we've already spoken about before, there is difference. Canada can export to different countries, America can't, so it's a huge advantage. But look at some of them, they're like 5 million, 10 million, 15 million market caps, yet they're doing revenue almost higher than what their market cap is. Surely that's something that demands you at least looking into them.
Oh yeah,
there's a lot of quality plays out there.
Yeah,
and more coming online as more and more states start bringing in legalization, whether it's medical or recreational. Or now there's more states that have either medical, recreational, or both, compared to states that do not have any type of cannabis legalization. So that's a huge
Well, we will be
shift.
talking more about this, because next week, October 17th, which lands on a Wednesday, so our Wednesday show will be, what's that back there?
Just wondering.
Oh. Yeah, so we'll be officially
terrible poker player.
We'll be whatever. It'll be officially legal, right? So then after that, it's like what's next, right?
Yeah.
Obviously edibles at some point, right? But we'll be talking a lot about the U.S. market.
I think it's going to be the worst for law enforcement.
Yeah.
Like I mean,
for Canada?
For when it goes legal.
Yeah.
Like I mean, it's just going to be pandemonium. I'd stay off the roads for the first week.
Really? You think it's going to be that bad?
I think people are going to do it more.
Yeah, I don't know.
Why not?
Well, it all depends, right? And that's the thing. It's such a mystery. No one really fully knows what's going on. And next week, by the way, we're having a special legalization episode because
we take them to the streets?
On Wednesday, we can take them to the streets. Yeah, I don't know how well that looks.
I've got an idea.
Yeah,
we'll see if it works out.
But that falls on legalization day.
I don't think everybody's going to just start smoking like more weed and driving. Like I'm not gonna. I don't feel that way. But what I think will happen is you will have situations where people will be, smoking cannabis everywhere. Certain people in front of families and kids. You know what I mean? And that's probably. I'm not a huge.
People aren't assholes.
Like I like. Well, that's going to happen. You're going to have a soccer mom.
I've got my rights.
Soccer mom pulls up with the kids, right? And there's a couple people smoking cannabis, and they're just puffing everywhere, and it's like. I mean, I'm not really. I don't know about that.
That's not every province, though. It's not every province. But
I'm talking about Ontario, and I live in Ontario, so that's why I'm talking.
They did elect it. Oh, snappy. I think he's out of the poker problem.
I'm talking about Bowmanville, Ontario.
Tell them how you feel.
I hope not, though, because that's just the ignorance of that. I know friends who smoke cigarettes, and when they're smoking, they see kids. They'll cup their hand, they'll put off the side because they don't want them seeing that stuff. Like,
no, but we're dealing with
There'll be a respect.
That
has to be.
Some people will, but some people won't. Yeah. Maybe in Burlington there will be.
You'll always have assholes.
But out east, I don't see as much.
No?
No, there'll be some issues there. Well, I can do what I want. You know what I mean? So I'm not sure about that rule. And then, you know what I think is going to happen? You know what I think is going to happen? No, I mean like out east GTA.
I thought we were like literally out east.
No.
And the newfies, they're out there just having fun, man.
I think there's going to be some issues with cannabis with people being able to smoke cannabis just like cigarettes, right?
Yeah.
And I think they'll end up cracking down on both. So they'll look at it the same. So if they're gonna correct that, it'll be like smoking and cannabis.
Well, they already tried with cigarettes.
Maybe it was strategic.
You think that?
It's possible.
I think it was strategic from an economic point of view. Ford looked at this and said, I'll have way more tourism, I'll have way more people smoking cannabis that they can smoke whatever they want. Well, it's money.
Yeah, it makes sense for him
honest.
and his vision, I get that. But I also do think there's going to be some issues, and whether it's his government or the next government, they're probably going to correct this.
Yeah.
And I think they're not just going to correct cannabis, I think they're going to correct smoke, well, I shouldn't say correct, I think they'll attack cannabis and tobacco.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. But going on that word correct, another really interesting news release, was that today or yesterday, was Canopy. That was interesting. That's the first
that was yesterday.
That I personally know of, and they even said in their news releases, as far as their knowledge, it's the first ever LP to export cannabis to the United States, albeit it's for medical purposes and research, but nonetheless. That's an
barrier that's broken, right?
That's an export, and they are on the New York Stock Exchange, so clearly they had the okay to do this, and they'd be fools if they didn't. Is that a sign that we're opening up to exports here?
I hope so. Like, I mean, it's got to be a sign of something. It's
just interesting. They've been so strict about that aspect.
Oh, of course.
Incredibly strict.
Well, I mean, look what they're doing at the border and stuff like that, right? Like, I mean, it's got to get better. It's got to be better with that kind of stuff.
I think that article, though, that was just a Citron
Are you sure?
fear tactic. I think so. Because that was
Citron?
Citron. Am I saying it right?
Is it
maybe
Citron?
We know who he is. Citron, Citron.
Citron. It makes me think of a movie.
It makes you just think of like lemons. Like citrus.
Citron. It's like a transformer.
But yeah, I can see that. but it's interesting because that article was just recirculated. It was already out in like June, and one guy got booked for this, and then all of a sudden they used that.
But more and more people are talking about
I think it was against Namaste, just not specifically against Namaste.
But more and more people are talking about how if they go to the border, they can ask you if you're investing and all that kind of stuff. And are they able to look that up? Like, how do you even
just tell them you're a drug lord and you'll be good?
Yeah.
I heard that really works.
It works. That's perfect.
What if you're on a medical cannabis list? Like, here's an interesting story, or I find it interesting. Out where I live, there's a local pet food place, and they have a big sign saying they sell CBD pet drops or something. So I'm like, I'm going to go in there and check it out, right? So I go in there, and there's a gentleman at the front desk whose dog is having seizures. So the guy is explaining, hey, you should take this stuff, whatever. And so we got into just cannabis in general, and he's like, yeah, my shoulder, do you believe in the CBD stuff? And I'm like, you should definitely try it. Why not? It's definitely it's not bad for you, you know what I mean? And he's like, yeah, but you know what? I don't want to get on any list because I know what they're doing with the people going down south. That's what he said to me, right? And I was like, that's something obviously you probably saw on a news channel somewhere, right? But he was worried about it, and he doesn't really know much about the cannabis space at all, but it was a concern.
Yeah.
So.
That's just a campaign. When I started all over Facebook, I saw friends that do not invest in cannabis or don't have, like, whether it be through their actual investments or just their time. When they're talking about it, that means it's mass spreading everywhere. I always look for a tactic. There's usually a tactic, one way or another, when a message spreads. There's always a reason.
Usually to hurt the market.
There's always a reason. Well, just in general.
Especially with Citron.
Well, the lemon. We'll start calling it the lemon from now on.
I think
they do this on purpose. They're short selling all the time.
This was just the U.S. saying, cracking down on cannabis investors. Remember that?
Yeah.
That's, I think, where this guy saw it.
Yeah.
So he's worried that if he takes CBD, or because I was like, you should go to your doctor and see if you can get cannabis, like get signed up for it, right?
Yeah.
And then he was like, well, I don't want to be on any list, right? It was interesting. I mean, I don't know how the U.S. would get a hold of that list, but it was a concern for him.
You know
what?
So
there's definitely some education.
And rightfully so, because regardless, that's why I kind of laugh at the article. But the article is true. If you partake in something that is federally illegal in the United States, technically they can not allow you in, and they can ban you for life. So it's not specific to cannabis, although in this case they're using it. It's just in general. But somebody twisted it, put it to cannabis. One guy got caught, and now they put it everywhere and use it as a campaign to freak all these people out, which again, I think the last one was for Namaste specifically because that just worked out very well. It was subliminal. You didn't say Namaste.
What are they at?
But you're thinking it. 204. So they're holding
Still
$2. But
so
that's been a roller coaster
they're holding
for
the
that.
200, I think.
I will find out for you.
Oh. Well, there's a stock that didn't do very well yesterday. Juggernaut.
Oh my goodness. I never owned them. I never owned JUGR. They were down 50% yesterday from those assays.
Is this Namaste?
This is
People
Namaste.
still believe in them.
Namaste, three times, it's love tapped off the 200. That's the peach.
That's good.
The
good
peach
sign.
orange. So it's staying above that for now, which is nice for all those Namaste investors
Can you
out
pull
there.
up the Juggernaut, please?
Oh my goodness. That one was, that's the...
So you want to get into
right?
junior mining, eh?
I know.
Look what happened to...
Look at that precipitous drop.
What is
Just
it?
off a
Is that a one day?
BMR?
This isn't one day. No, this is 6 months.
I don't know if BMR back then.
No, but
they-
remember when he was like promoting Jug? G-U-G?
Was he?
Well, you asked him on the show. And,
Oh,
he
different,
was-
different. I think that's different. This is JUGR.
No, I know, but I'm saying with that one too. That one got hit too.
Did it?
Yeah,
Because
AIS. That
Yeah.
thing was like a $1.47. It went down to.
You know what the problem is? This is a great segue. You know what the problem is that so many people are getting into these at the 50 cents, at 70 cents, 60, whatever it is. They're getting in when the hype train's coming.
They're getting in on the run up to assays.
They're getting in when the marketing starts going in. Really, if you have to take a more patient approach, but what you really need to start looking for are these companies that you believe in their management, their land package, what they're doing. But you need to get in either in early private placements, which is something that I know you and I have been talking about a lot, but like looking for those opportunities, but also get in before all the marketing happens. If you're going in just before the first assays are coming out, do you know how many people are in before you still that have been waiting for a long time? They're going to use that as a liquidity.
Well, that's what the
event to
savvy
unload their
junior
shares.
mining speculator does, right? They get
That's
in.
what this happened.
They get in on a nickel, dime, 15-cent raise.
Although this one, I think,
4 to 6 months out before your assays are coming, or even longer. You get some marketing and promoting behind it, and you sell on the way up. And here's where you sit on your warrants.
yeah.
Right?
But this one, unfortunately, I think their assays were just, they did not.
And there was 2 raises. I remember we were talking about this. Another good reason to be in our mining chat room, because we were talking about this last night. And actually, I was being very aggressive with people because I'm kind of pissy with the junior mining space right now.
Yeah.
But so they had 2 raises, and that first raise, you would have had the opportunity because your free trading paper would have come out, I think, August 28th. So you would have been able to sell.
Which is
and sit risk-free.
right up there, actually, just before September. So that big green, green
which is
candle.
exactly what you want to do.
Yeah.
So if you're getting, if you're buying into the hype of the potential of this play, you're probably bag holding.
Yeah.
You've got some Lululemon bags.
Yeah.
There was a lot of talk about the management there too. That it was pretty shady.
There was some warning, and another good thing about follow the money. There is some smart people in our chat rooms. We don't bash stocks, but if there's factual stuff, you know what I mean, then it definitely gets out there, and there were warnings. But you know what? This probably was or still is a good potential play.
Just
I mean,
the first
I don't
results
know
weren't too good.
Exactly, but that's the thing with junior mining. You get a couple holes that weren't up to an expectation, and it's fucking crashing like this.
Yeah, so absolutely. But the reason why this was a good segue is because we had the CEO of Providence Gold in earlier today. Providence Gold is a client of FTMIG.com, and for good reason, because when we saw them, we saw they had the land packages. We saw that they had a lot of potential there, and there hasn't been much promotion going into them. And just as it even says it in the clip, only as much as they need just to stay relevant and keep the name out there, but they haven't gone through that push. And they're talking about building the foundation of a company before you go out and do this.
These are the things I want to look at.
And that's why I'm personally an investor myself. But we'll go to that clip
I do own
now,
some as well.
And we will we'll see what he had to say on the show. And we're here with Ron Opertu, co-founder and CEO of Providence Gold. How are we doing today?
Great. How about you?
Doing well. It's been a busy day today, but we're just always, it's always an interesting time in both the cannabis and the mining industry. There's so many things going on every single day. But no, we're here now to learn more about your company and who you are and what you've been doing over the last little while.
Okay. If you want to have a better background, I had retired. I'm getting a lot of feedback, by the way, on this, which is a bit of a challenge. But I had retired, and I was living in Baja, California, and I ran into people that were running a placer operation in the Yukon. Perfect. In discussions with them, I became very interested in the source of their placer gold. They had discovered gold in that area in the early 1970s. They had been placer mining very successfully since the mid-1980s. And I personally, several years earlier, had found a major gold system in Montana based on following up on a placer that didn't have an obvious source. So it intrigued me so much that I flew up to the Yukon in the spring and investigated the property on the ground, liked what I saw, and recognized that there were three very rich placers originating from a ridgetop and on the sides of the ridgetop in a place called Moosehorn in the western part of the Yukon, and that ridge was the source of the gold. They described to me, for example, when they were placering the rich placers, that they would reach a zone where there was shearing and low-lying, flat-lying veining in the drainage. They would cross the drainage, the gold would spike dramatically at that point and then drop off dramatically afterwards. It was obvious to me that the shearing that they were finding was one of the sources of the gold in the placer system. So we followed that up with trenching and geology in 2016. And we had some exceptional local results. We got a feeling for the geology. We followed that up in 2017 with a modest drilling program focused primarily on two areas and trying to understand the geologic system. What we found out about the geologic system is that it is both a mesothermal and epithermal system, so there's probably more than one gold mineralization period. But we found out that the gold system is associated with both flat-lying faults, vertical faults, probably a thrust system with, I won't get into the technical details, but anyway, it's structurally controlled, and that structural control also has a further enhancement of a broad northeast trending shear zone that cuts across the entire 6 kilometers width of the property. We've also then defined where the most likely sources for the placer gold are. And I'm going to take a step back now. That a gold system that they found in the placers is probably it's the richest placer found in the Yukon in the last several decades. They mined personally, as they told me, over 100,000 ounces of gold from these placers. One of the placers on Canyon Creek, when a government geologist went up there and did pit sampling for 4,000 feet in the upper part of the placer, the lowest grade assay sample they found was over half an ounce per cubic yard. So it's pretty rich.
Yeah, and no reason to apologize either. It's been so interesting. The more people you speak to who really they live and breathe exploration and mining, don't worry at all. Every single person I found who really cares about it is just like that. They'll start going into all the different specifics, and for some investors as well who want to know these specifics, it's fantastic. So not to worry there at all.
Okay. So anyway, what we also found out in our work last year was that working in the Yukon is very seasonal. It's a very short season. It's a very expensive place to work. So given that, I wanted to build our company, which we are doing, I wanted to get a second project, and Nevada was the place of choice. I'm familiar with it. I have a lot of friends who are excellent geologists who have worked there their entire careers. And I decided that we needed to be more than, as the colloquium says, a one-trick pony. We decided we would continue with the Yukon project, but also add a Nevada project. And to that end, by the way, I'll go back to the Yukon one more time. We didn't do much work this summer because we focused on Nevada, where we could both focus on acquiring a property and do work much less expensively. At my request, the placer operators, who are the same ones who discovered that property in the 1970s and have been mining it very successfully since the 1980s, did some trenching for me, and in that trenching, where I told them to go based on the geologic knowledge that we'd gained last year, they almost immediately found 2 gold-bearing veins. So I think we are getting a pretty good handle on what the gold controls are in that Yukon system. Subsequent to that, we also have been talking to some other companies for possibly sharing the costs and expanding the property base, because when we became involved up there, shortly thereafter, we had other companies surround us with claims. One of them who were dealing with told us, which we already knew, that the gold source is almost certainly on our claims. We are probably going to do that development jointly to lower costs and to maximize chance of success. In our Nevada property situation, I met with geologists I've known for decades, and they're excellent geologists in Nevada. I told them that what our criteria were, we wanted to have a big system, a system that had a lot of upside, and a system that wasn't going to cost us an arm and a leg. I went out and looked at short lists that were developed, and I rejected almost all the properties. But in that process, I found a very few properties that appeared to be excellent. One of those properties is called Silver Bow. It's about 40 miles to the northeast of Tonopah, Nevada. It's primarily a silver property with gold credits. In that property, what we have is a system that has been explored a few times in the past. But that exploration drilling, when I reviewed it on the ground, we actually went out and found the places where they drilled. They had drilled A, the wrong areas, and B, they had not crossed our target structures. That's partly because we have a better knowledge of what the geologic controls in Nevada are for these systems these days, and partly because of the herd mentality, where if somebody drilled in this area, let's go follow up on their drilling because they had some interesting results. Instead, we took a step back and looked at that whole system. The Silver Bow system is a system that is more than 3 miles wide east-west in 2 major shear zones, and also more than a mile across the other direction, north-south. In that system, there are targets on the 2 east-west zones on their east end that have never been drilled. One of them by a geologic report done by a man 20 years ago. And by the way, I'll step back. One of the criteria that I used on this is I wanted to have properties that had been looked at in the past, at least a decade or 2 ago, and not been looked at again. They'd been forgotten properties, and that's exactly what this one was. He came out with a report that I verified on the ground that projected that there is a zone on the south structure of these 2 structures that has the potential to have up to 2 million ounces of gold and 200 million ounces of silver. And that's a reasonable expectation when you look at the historic mining that happened in little mom and pop mines that were before modern technology. They ran into groundwater shallow, so they did little vertical peepholes into the main structures. The projected mining was not a great amount, maybe 10,000 ounces of gold maximum, and maybe 1 million ounces of silver maximum in that historic mining. But the average grade of production reported was about 0.05 ounce per ton gold and 35 ounces silver, which tells you it's mostly a silver target at this point.
Yeah.
What the large bulk tonnage target is, that this geologist postulated is an average grade of about 0.02 to 0.04 ounce per ton gold and up to 4 ounces silver. We have records from one of those old mom and pop mines on the zone that run and all the assays, the channel assays that were done underground, had gold credits up to as high as 1,500ths of an ounce per ton gold, and silver assays that went ridiculously high numbers. But every sample on the floor of that mine where the water stopped them ran multiple ounces of silver. And these were all samples that were 3 to 4 feet wide minimum across the width of that old historic working. So it's a really interesting target area. It's strong alteration. It's a big system. The best parts of the system have never been drilled. The drill holes that theoretically were going to check out one of the two structures were drilled at an angle that guaranteed they would never cross the structure. They were drilled north of the structure was dipping to the south, and the drill holes were angled to the south at an angle that guaranteed no intercept. So they're wide open target. We also have recognized these days the importance of rhyolite flow dome, and I'm sorry for the technical part, but rhyolite flow dome mineralization in Nevada gold systems, and there are clearly rhyolite flow domes that occur between the two east-west zones on this property, and it looks like the mineralization actually may wrap around these domes and also project under these domes. So that gives an even stronger upside to the property.
No, absolutely. And what's interesting as well to note, I mean, we've been speaking a few times before this, when it comes to the development where, you know, you have your land packages and you're eyeing what you want to be doing, but when it comes to the progress of where you are from beginning to, you know, that hopeful point that every exploration company hopes to get to, which is proving economies of scale and being bought out and having that turn into a mine. It's interesting because you have all these different areas that you've been looking into, but your focus hasn't been in heavy promotion. It hasn't been in all these different aspects. Your stock price actually is currently underneath where you last did your last financing, and you did a debt consolidation or a debt financing as well at 25 cents. I believe last I checked you were 18 or 19.
Yes.
It's interesting because you have all these different elements that you're looking into. You have the plan all set. Is it safe to say that next year is the year where you're going to be like, okay, we're putting this plan to action, we're going into this, and now we know what we're doing, we can't wait to get the drills into what we've been seeing and planning for?
You better believe it. Right now, we have not only a drilling program planned for both properties, and we have targets that we've identified. We also are discussing further 2 other properties that we may add to the package if we can close the deals that will make us a solid company, hopefully with some established reserves and definitely with targets that are going to grow.
No, absolutely. And I'm excited to see that because, you know, a lot of these different mining plays that have been coming up over the last little while, they've been fantastic companies, fantastic plays, but a lot of them have been coming to most people's attention later in the life cycle of their stock, if you want to call it that. And what we're looking for, like I'm personally looking for, is opportunities of getting into things a little bit earlier, because I don't mind waiting longer. That's my personal style. I know a lot of people like to day trade, and it comes with its thrills, but you've got to have a portion of your capital as well. We're going into something saying, okay, this is here for a while because I see potential and I see growing. And that's where you guys first came across our radar when we were looking into you, because you have these different packages, you have these different aspects, and it seems like it hasn't quite caught on yet, because it's not supposed to, because the biggest plans are still to come.
Well, we actually were more in focus from the beginning on trying to establish the reality of the deposits, to show that they had big size potential and we're going to continue to grow, to basically attract a senior partner that we could either have the option of continuing on as their own company or be taken out by a senior company. Yeah. To that end, we've actually had a couple of discussions that have been very positive. So I think we retain that philosophy that we want to not try to promote the stock right now anymore than we need to, but mostly focus on establishing the reality of these deposits and their size potential.
No, and that's good to hear. And that's where, you know, if you are looking for longer term investments, that's where people should be looking into and doing due diligence on companies like that, because that's where you can see the downside is much less steep than the apparent upside when these things do start going well. And your ticker, it's PAU, I believe it's the TSX Venture, correct?
Mm-hmm.
The TSX Venture. You can also go onto your website as well to look into more of what you've been doing. There's a story that we're going to be following over the next little while. I just want to say I appreciate your time very much. This isn't the last that we're going to have you on the show. We would love to continue to have you on with the progression of your company and how things are going in the next little while as you build your story and you get to that point where, you know, like I said earlier, all the exploration companies are looking for. Prove economy of scale and prove that this was something that was worthwhile for investors and yourself as well, though.
I think right now we are poised to have a really exciting year, both because of what we're planning on doing on these properties. Also, I think the timing is good for the precious metals market right now. As you know, they've been in a bit of a slump, but I think we're going to come out of that. We also have attracted attention in Germany, which is a good place to have interest in our projects. So I think we're poised for some significant developments over the next year.
Boy, I'm excited to hear how they're going over the next little while. And like I said, this won't be the last time our viewers see you. We're sure to have you on the next little while as well. I appreciate coming on over in BC so early in the morning, and look forward to hearing more as you continue to progress.
Thank you, and thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Take care now. And we are back. Love it, man. I love finding those things early, or and just being able to now look into them, knowing that that could be an investment long term.
My ears were perked.
Perked.
Oh yeah,
is that what your ears were doing?
Mm-hmm.
Very nice, very nice. But Karl, you got a call from the legal team earlier.
Yes, I did. So interesting development. You can definitely go up. One big incentive to sign up on FTMIG.com on our website is that we will be able to offer private placements in the near future. So for example, a company like that, our client, if they're going to do a raise, we can hook up with them and offer it to our community, but you're going to have to sign up on our website. So FTMIG.com, go on there, sign up. You also need to sign up if you want to get into our chat rooms as well.
Yep.
But that is a significant development, because I know this has been in the works for the last actually couple months. It's been something we've been working on. But that's a big thing. I really was rather passionate last night in our energy mining chat room, because we're getting more connected to things, and I sort of see what's happening, and that's where I want our members to know that we're headed. We want to get people in as early as possible. You know what I mean? When we know there's some marketing, some promotion behind a really good story, an undervalued opportunity, we want to get people in on those nickel and dime raises, 15-cent raises with warrants. You know what I mean? And so, for example, in a junior mining, as we already talked about, you've got that 4 to 6 month window when the drills start turning, and when you're going to get your assays back and you have that, you could trim your position take your initial, at least your initial investment off the table. I'm not giving anyone advice. This is what I would be doing. At least be taking that off, you know what I mean, and some profit, and then sit on your warrants. So that's, we will be working hard. I look like a politician. We will be lurking.
Now you're using your hands everywhere. You're yelling at me last week for that.
We will be working very, very hard behind the scenes to find these plays that we like, companies, you know what I mean? And that will get offered to anyone that's signed up for it.
Yep.
So there you go. So sign up on the website.
And as you're saying, one of the talks I had with Greg Johnson, CEO of Metallic Minerals, we had a Facebook Live, what now seems like months ago, and he was talking about looking at the cycle and looking at from when they first started off with exploration, then when they started doing their first results, they start proving it. Now they have to prove if they're economic or not. And he was even saying, this is where you get a lot of people in the early round. You have to be patient, and as the way up, you start lightening your load a little bit. So you're taking some risk off the table.
They're doing it the right way.
And he's doing it probably. He's teaching don't leave it all in there. You're almost a fool for doing that.
Yeah, and
but don't take it all out either. You want to ride things.
I look at it as a challenge because a lot of smart, savvy investors that I've met, they're like, well, only elite, the president's list, and this and that get into those raises. So I look at that as a challenge. I want to get myself in there. I want to help my friends get in there and our community, right? That's that's really what we're about. So I see what's going on out there. I see it. I see people. We're talking about stocks that smart investors got into way earlier. So you know what? I'm gonna swear. Fuck that. You know what I mean?
I love how you announced it.
Why are we not there? That's where we're headed. Yeah. That's what we're doing. You know what I mean? It's not like there isn't a lot of great opportunities that are free trading right now. Of course, there's many of them, right? But these are the things that I want to focus a lot of my time on.
Yeah, and absolutely. And what we've said since the very beginning, we wanted to break down the barriers of institutional and retail investors.
Oh, we're going to do it too. It's happening. They know it. We get calls from brokers all the time. You know what I mean? So, expect that. And we're a good avenue. We're a really good avenue and platform alongside Midas Letter to tell the stories of these companies, bring them on here, whether if it's mining, their geos, from the CEOs. So we get the capital market side of their vision. We get the geologist side of what's going on with the rocks. I mean, if I'm an investor, that's the shit I want to see on here. You know what I mean? So pardon my French, but...
Yeah, we started speaking different languages there for a bit.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we go right into something, because we were actually talking about it earlier. I wanted to segue into it, but our conversation kept going. When we were talking about CBD products, and we were talking about the opioid crisis that's going on right now, and these different areas in which cannabis has already proven that it's helping, but how much more there's supposed to go. I sat down with the CEO of Empower Clinics, Craig Snyder, and we'll play that video here and see what he has in store throughout the United States and a little bit in Canada as well. We're here today with Craig Snyder, CEO of Empower Clinics. Appreciate you stopping by and giving us your time today.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. So why don't we start off with, because I know when I first heard about your name, I'm thinking, well, who is this? I started looking into your company. There's actually a lot of interesting things you have going on. For any viewers that haven't heard of you before, who is Empower Clinics and what do you do?
So Empower Clinics is a US-based medicinal cannabis clinic group, but we are also focused on medicinal cannabis products for our patients as well, and we also have a technology platform for telemedicine. So we're a growing medicinal cannabis clinics group that also supports our patients with products and with technology.
That's glad to hear. And actually, coincidentally enough, there was a news article that came out today about your launch of your CBD medical cannabis products under, you told me earlier, see if I get it right, Solevo?
Solevo is
I did get it right.
Solevo is our branded line, and Solevo means calm in Italian.
Yeah.
And we have two branded lines. One is THC, which actually has to go through a state processor in the states, in the 30 states that do have medicinal cannabis, and then there's obviously 9 that are recreational as well. But we also have a line that is for CBD, and our CBD products, which is what the release was today, our CBD products are specifically targeted to the 3 broadest medical conditions that we see most in our clinics, which have to do with pain, sleep, and stress.
Yeah, and those are really important things, and that's been all over the news recently about the opioid crisis is massive throughout North America, and a lot of people, when they get stressed or they can't sleep properly, the first thing we're always turning to are pills and all these different aspects. And although cannabis at times can take a form of a pill, it's amazing how we're now discovering, or maybe now it's just coming to light, that we can use cannabis and all the different cannabinoids to treat these certain things instead of going to a strong opioid or Valiums or these other things that have been proven to be highly addictive.
Yes, I think the recent number from the CDC is showing that there's 115 people die a day with opioid-related deaths. So
that's crazy.
For the first time, you're starting to see both the federal government and state governments, funding this in a very real way. Illinois was one of the leaders in this, where we recently opened up a clinic. But this problem of going from what I'll call pharmaceutical opioids to synthetic opioids to heroin has reached epidemic proportions. Yeah. And we hope to play a role in terms of intermediating that, or disintermediating that string of events, and it's one that we think will be key for our industry here into the foreseeable future, based on the dramatic effects it's having on society.
Yeah, absolutely. And although I'm pulling this from memory, so I can't remember exactly who it was, but I remember seeing an article recently that was, they were saying they had done a study showing that a lot of people are actually ditching their normal pharmaceutical drugs for some sort of cannabis-derived product. You got to watch out for some of those surveys, because you never know how they're done, but it's a clear sign that this is happening just from people I speak to. The amount of people who had a handful of pills until they found cannabis one way or another, and now a plant that's growing on the ground, whether it be through CBD or whatever aspect or whatever cannabinoid, it's replacing all of those. I mean, that's a big deal, not just from a company standpoint where it's a great opportunity for you guys, but as a society, I think that's a really big deal to move away, because it's such a crisis, the opioid crisis, that is.
Yeah, and it's a key, and I think one of the things that we are asked all the time is, why do people come see you at a clinic, or what value are you providing that my local physician can't provide? And what we generally see is a couple things. One is that if they are taking an opioid, it usually was prescribed by their local physician. Yeah. And two, the second thing that the clinic provides that the local physician won't is, we're obviously seeing 15,000, 20,000 patients a year. And with that, we do understand for some of the unique and special conditions that people have, not only for pain, sleep, and stress, but in other conditions, the doctors are experienced in really understanding what is the appropriate dosage, what is the appropriate recommended ingestion method that they have seen provide the best efficacy for patients. So this is evolving, as you know, daily, weekly, monthly in the market. There are more and more products that are being beneficial to patients, but this is the opioid crisis. Veterans with PTSD are two areas that, because of their sensitivity in the public, are kind of front and center in ways that cannabis is playing a role. And you also mentioned that this is the one thing that we are finding, and one of the reasons why we use the Solieval name is people are trying to find some calm in their life, so they have the ability to work, they have the ability to have a relationship, they have the ability to work out, and they're not in that addictive spiral that the opioids are currently producing for them.
Yeah, and two really good points there. One, we already spoke about just the opioid crisis, so we won't go too much on that, but I love that fact of being able to have something that you can turn to that won't put you down that spiral, like you said, and that insane addiction towards something. Right. But just in general, I mean, it's amazing how just a couple of years ago you would have seen CBD products and it would have been like this, voodoo, I don't know what you want to call it. It was such a strange thing for so many people, but now we're having doctors and physicians really get behind this, and just like you had mentioned, they're working on dosages. They're working on proper diagnosis of things. It truly is becoming a medicine. I would argue it is a medicine already. Mm-hmm. It's just really interesting to see that progression and where they can go, because you're all across the United States, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, on CBD, obviously that is a much more scalable opportunity than the THC opportunity, which is really state regulated.
Yeah.
So for us, that's important. And again, our CBD products are targeted at the most common qualifying conditions, which are pain, sleep, and stress. Yeah. So that's important for us. I think the other thing that we're hearing from people is when they are taking some sort of medication, if they are taking some sort of pharmaceutical product, the one thing that they deal with are, the side effects of it, and with a more natural-based product, they don't have as many of the side effects, whether even leaving aside addiction, just the way they may feel the next day, or the feeling that their body has physiologically from the products.
No, and that's great to hear. And where can people, for anyone who's watching this and they want to know more about you, where can they turn to for information right now? Your website, I can only imagine? Yeah,
the website, empowerclinics.com, but also, we'll be having our releases on, the products. They'll have the ability to purchase the products online here shortly, and also at the clinics themselves, which will be points of distribution. And our goal is to have a national brand in terms of the clinics, but also a national brand in terms of the products. And the clinics are under the Empower Clinics brand, and the products are under the Solievo brand.
Very nice. And are you currently in Canada right now, or are you waiting for obviously the regulations to come through, or how does that work right now for Canadians who are looking at this?
Yeah, we're listed in 3 markets. We're listing on the CSE, we're listed in Frankfurt, and we're listed on the OTC markets in the United States. So we're listed in the 3 markets, and we are the first public clinic group in the United States. Our operations will stay primarily in the United States, but we are also looking for opportunistic types of partnerships up in Canada as well. To date, we're in 3 states, Oregon, Washington, and Illinois, but we expect that to expand pretty rapidly from where we are today.
Yeah, and then, so many people are so fixated on the Canadian economy, and I'd love to see what our Canadian cannabis is doing here. It's been a great ride. Obviously, October 17th is next Wednesday, a week away from Canadian legalization of cannabis. But in the States, people sometimes forget it's a little bit bigger. Yeah. it's a little bit bigger. It's the largest economy in the world. There's a lot of opportunity there, and it sounds like that's where you really want to focus.
Right. I think, if when you look at a population perspective, 40 million versus 340 million. And also, I think for us, if you look at our most recent clinic in Chicago, it's not only just a medical cannabis center, it's a full-blown wellness center to treat those areas that we talked about. So we think, the next time we talk, we'll probably be in a number of new states and have a national type brand that's going throughout the United States. And that's where we see the opportunities, in particular in the 30 states that are currently medical. But as you know, there's still a large percentage of states in the U.S. that are not medical and not recreational.
Yeah, and that's surprising to me. It's surprising and not surprising at the same times, but I can't see that being something going forward. You can really see the movement going. You can only hold it back for so long. I can imagine that'll continue to grow.
I would think so, and I think so for 2 reasons. I think the first is that the social benefits are there. We're seeing drunk driving deaths drop in many of the states, violent crimes drop in many of the states, and the programs have been managed extremely well in the states where it's rolled out. So I think states that continue to roll it out will have models to work off, and it will only be better because they have a proxy for how to do it the right way in terms of how they grow and cultivate, how they process, and how they dispense, and how to handle all those licenses. We're also seeing now a very predictable pattern in the way that the states develop in terms of medicinal is generally the way it goes first in a small number of qualifying conditions, then a much larger set of qualifying conditions, and then broader. And then you can obviously see in Colorado, Washington, Oregon, California, the tax benefit that the introduction of medicinal cannabis and recreational cannabis is provided in those states. In terms of the revenue that, in many cases have been earmarked for either education or healthcare issues in those states, but it's been dramatic.
Yeah, I remember reading about Washington actually, and they had so much tax revenue that there was a clause in their system. They had to give back some of that money to the citizens because when it comes to a certain tax, you can't make over a certain amount of money. It was like the first year, I'm pretty sure they changed that right afterwards. But I do remember that, and I was like, wow, that's incredible.
Right, and I think that from a taxation perspective, this is one of the few things that's just been taxed pretty heavily and really has not created much of a furor. I think if you taxed any of the more common products that are out there at the rate that people have taxed cannabis, you would see a pretty large uproar. But the other positive thing is you're seeing the number of jobs are that are being created through this. The real estate taxes, the sales taxes, and some of the specific cannabis taxes are there. But I think the key in all that is while the taxes are nice, the social role. If we can play a role in the PTSD crisis, we can play a role in the opioid crisis. The social benefits of doing it will be there as well, because certainly the economic ones have proven to be in the short term.
Well, I appreciate you coming down. It's been really interesting to learn a little bit more about you. Like you said earlier, you can head to your website,
powerclinics.com.
And for the CSC, it was EPW was your ticker, and EPWCF was the OTC.
That's correct, EPW and EPWCF.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate it very much and look forward to having you back on the show in the near future and seeing how everything's been going over the next few months as we continue to progress.
Thanks. It's exciting times.
Absolutely.
Do that though?
No,
no. There's certain boundaries. And we're back, and we were wondering what we were going to talk about. Look at Afria right now.
Afria?
No, Afria. I always say things wrong. Can I
say it in a different accent?
Can I get my NDI up? What was going on with this today? It's absolutely just flipped a switch. Everything was all red last time I saw it. Oh, of course the screen goes right in half. We can go just on that for a second. It's up almost 13%, nearly at $20. This only came in the last, when we went to that clip, it was at 4%. It's been running. Somebody knows something.
You're telling me there's a leak.
Something. I'm telling you there's a leak.
News is coming out aftermarket or
let's
it went all the way down. It was at a low of like 1650.
Let's speculate on what's going on here.
It was a low. They're getting bought out by somebody.
I can hear Ed. I can hear Ed talking in the background.
It was a low of 1664. Everyone was panicking, probably selling, and now look at this. 1993 is the high of the day. It's been absolutely ripping. I don't know what's going on.
You're really excited now.
I am. Everything was so red. This is the one gem that just
Do you own
it? I don't. But I'm excited about it because that means something's happening. I think it's something happening.
Dude,
the markets are getting destroyed all across North America.
What do you think?
Cannabis, I think it's a deal.
Yeah, what kind of deal?
Diageo.
Really?
Right now?
Come on with that.
Do you know something, Brandon?
If I did, why wouldn't I be a shareholder?
Vic's coming on the Midas.
I am, and I hope you're right.
Yeah, no, it's
well, he was going to come on today, actually.
I'm not too sure, actually. I can't remember. But it's been. Oh, we're on.
This guy's phone's going off. I can hear them talking.
I know. This is crazy today. Ed just wants to get on. He's so anxious to get on at 3 o'clock. Ripping, absolutely ripping. 13 million volume, up almost 14% now. When everyone else is red, this is something. This is loose lips. Somebody knows something. And we're going to find out tomorrow.
Do you think it'll be sell the news, though?
It very well could be after it's ripped like this.
Yeah.
But if it's a big deal, though, if it actually
well, maybe it'll lift up the whole sector.
If it's like a Diageo deal that's similar to Constellations, if Afria is having a deal, it's a good deal. Because they said no to not Hexo. They said no to Molson Coors.
New high of the day.
And
it's about to hit $20 right now.
It's going to hit 20 as we watch.
It's like a New Year's countdown.
Almost 15%. As all the lights are flashing and everything's going crazy.
There's a big wall. There's a big wall at 20.
Yeah, right at 2019. Right at 20.
Here we go. Here we go.
It's going to eat through.
It's
eating through.
Oh, gone.
Holy sh!
Whoa! He almost. It's a big deal when he almost swear.
That was nuts. That was like 300,000 shares gone.
What are we
or
at
was
right
pulled.
15%.
Or it was pulled.
How did this many people know what's going on?
This is a big deal.
Did you see that if it got eaten or if it was just? I think it was just pulled. I think somebody was trying to scare everybody, saw it was getting eaten into, and then pulled it away. Something's going on with Afria, and I don't know what it is. But if it's a Diageo, it's going to be a big one.
Do you think news today or tomorrow?
What about What about like a major financing?
It could be.
Oh man, that
but
would be
if
brutal.
it's going to be a deal, it's going to be big because Vic, the CEO of Afria, already said no to Molson Coors. And then the Hydropothecary said yes, but it wasn't really a big deal. It was a joint venture, and they had to give up shares for that. Man. This could be something big because it blew through that wall like it was nothing.
Can you say big one more time?
Yeah.
Big.
What's the average daily volume?
It's huge. VWAP, I'm pretty sure it's up here, isn't it?
14 million. Oh, average daily volume.
I'm not too sure. I'm still new to this platform for the average volume. On my TD, I know. But just in general, rockets. Let's see what happens for this. Rocket. This thing is flying.
What else is going on?
That's all I care about now.
Look at this.
I think Kronos was going at 50. Oh, everything's turned green, actually.
Hold on a second.
We have a dusty red to green, folks.
Hold on, we got
What's that? And this is why, folks. This is in our chat rooms. I won't put it because there's a certain name in there. Someone in our chat rooms has just posted Marlboro maker Altria in talks with pot grower Afria. Cigarettes, folks.
Not Diageo cigarettes.
Which is arguably even bigger.
Oh, 100%.
So that's...
Do you guys remember when I was at the Mercedes dealership months ago and I met that guy? Randomly, we were looking at we were looking at his...
I remember that.
Yeah, really nice car. And so anyways, we started talking. And he's like, you know what, man, I got to go. I got a meeting with downtown with big American tobacco company. And he didn't know who I was. He didn't know I was a speculator or anything. I was like, whoa, hold on a second. And I got another 10 minutes of conversation out of him, and then I got his card. Actually, he owns a cannabis company out in, I want to say close to Belleville.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he mentioned that Big Tobacco was in Toronto having meetings. This was about 3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah, I remember that.
Do you remember that? I put the story in our chat room, and I put it in Ross's MMJ show.
We met up that day for something. I can't recall what it was.
Yeah.
I think we were in Toronto for something.
Yeah.
And that's massive. And look what it's done to the other guys. You know, you've seen Canopy, Aurora, and CanTrust have all gone green now.
Oh, really? So the big guys are going green?
All of them just turned green.
So T-God is...
Believe's usually really quiet stock. That one's up 11%.
What?
Yeah. TerraSen's been destroying it.
So the question is now...
Kronos Group as well. So all the bigger tier people have now gone green, even Hexo.
So we can't say if it is, but do you think that this is a buying opportunity for... Okay, they're running. You think it's a catalyst?
17% almost. Whose phone is that, yours?
No, this is my laptop. I'll just tell it to
Do we think the catalyst is going? I don't know. He's stopped this conversation.
His phone makes noises all day. Anyways, do you think that this would be a sector-wide catalyst? So today this is running, but tomorrow, so there could be...
We have to see what it's going to be like. Is it going to be like a Molson Coors and Hexo thing? That didn't do anything. We thought so
how was it not halted?
I don't know.
How did the circuits not break?
But they've been, it's just speculation at this moment, but look what it's done, arguably, because everything was red up until just 15 minutes ago. Arguably, if people think this is a done deal, or if some people know it's a done deal, then they might start thinking...
Vic was going to come in today.
Yeah.
And
I'm not sure.
I think he was.
Yeah. Are you speculating right now? Are you speculating?
No, I think he was.
I heard that too, don't you worry.
No, but look what it's done. It's pulled all these other ones out because now, just like the Constellations deal, everyone was thinking, well, what cannabis company is coming in, or what alcohol company is coming in next for this cannabis industry?
Dude,
if this is big tobacco coming in.
I'm 50% cash right now, so I might want to buy something.
Should we stop the show early so you can get back to your...
You know what? Let's wrap it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
He's like, I want to get to buying
Speculator
right now.
first.
Well,
no, seriously, let's wrap it.
No, absolutely.
Okay.
Last time you did one. All right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed. Look for Afria and look for everybody to pull out. This ends a great day. This would be amazing.
Later.
Thanks, guys.